Dervorguilla of Galloway was a lady of substance in 13th-century Scotland, the wife from 1223 of John V, Baron de Balliol, and mother of John I, a future king of Scotland. The name Dervorgilla was a Latinization of the Gaelic Dearbhfhorghaill family. Dervorgilla was one of the three daughters and heiresses of the Gaelic Prince Alan, Lord of Galloway. She was born to Alan's second wife Margaret of Huntingdon, who was the eldest daughter of David of Scotland, 8th Earl of Huntingdon, and Matilda of Chester. David in turn was the youngest brother to two kings of Scotland, Malcolm IV and William the Lion. Thus, through her mother, Dervorgilla was descended from the kings of Scotland, including David I. Dervorgilla's father died in 1234 without a legitimate son. According to both Anglo-Norman feudal laws and to ancient Gaelic customs, Dervorgilla was one of his heiresses, her two sisters Helen and Christina being older and therefore senior. This might be considered an unusual practice in England, but it was more common in Scotland and in Western feudal tradition. Because of this, Dervorgilla bequeathed lands in Galloway to her descendants, the Balliol and the Commons. Dervorgilla's son John of Scotland was briefly a King of Scots too, known as Tuam Tabit. Life. The Balliol family into which Devorgilla married was based at Barnard Castle in County Durham, England. Although the date of her birth is uncertain, her apparent age of 13 was by no means unusually early for betrothal and marriage at the time. In 1263, her husband Sir John was required to make penance after a land dispute with Walter Kirkham, Bishop of Durham. Part of this took the very expensive form of founding a college for the poor at the University of Oxford. Sir John's own finances were less substantial than those of his wife, however, and long after his death it fell to Devorgilla to confirm the foundation. With the blessing of the same bishop as well as the university hierarchy, she established a permanent endowment for the college in 1282, as well as its first formal statutes. The college still retains the name Balliol College, where the History Students' Society is called the Devorgilla Society, and an annual seminar series featuring women in academia is called the Dervorgilla Seminar Series, while a requiem mass in Latin was sung at Balliol for the 700th anniversary of her death. It is believed that this was sung as a one-off, rather than having been marked in previous centuries. Devorgilla founded a Cistercian abbey 7 miles south of Dumfries in southwest Scotland, in April 1273. It still stands as a picturesque ruin of red sandstone. When Sir John died in 1269, his widow, Dervorgilla, had his heart embalmed and kept in a casket of ivory bound with silver. The casket travelled with her for the rest of her life. In 1274-5, John de Folkesworth arraigned an assize of novel disseisin against Devorgilla and others touching the tenement in Stibbington, Northamptonshire. In 1275-6, Robert de Ferrers arraigned an assize of Morford Ancestor against her touching a messuage in Repton, Derbyshire. In 1280, Sir John de Balliol's executors, including his widow, Devorgilla, sued Alan Fitzcount regarding a debt of £100 claimed by the executors from Alan. In 1280 she was granted letters of attorney to Thomas de Hunsinger and another in England, she staying in Galloway. The same year Devorgilla, Margaret de Ferrers, Countess of Derby, Ellen, widow of Alan Le Zouche, and Alexander Cummin, Earl of Buchan, and Elizabeth his wife sued Roger de Clifford and Isabel his wife, and Roger de Leybourne and Nidwan his wife regarding the manors of Winton, Kingsmereburn, Appleby, and Brough under Staymore, and a moiety of the manor of Kirkby Stephen, all in Westmoreland. The same year Devorgilla sued John de Vere for a debt of £24. In 1280-1, Lawrence Duquet arraigned an assize of novel disseisin against Devorgilla and others touching a hedge destroyed in Coatingham, Middlesex. In 1288 she reached agreement with John Abbot of Ramsey regarding a fishery in Ellington. In her last years, the main line of the royal house of Scotland was threatened by a lack of male heirs, and Devorgilla, who died just before the young heiress Margaret, the Maid of Norway, might, if she had outlived her, have been one of the claimants to her throne. Devorgilla was buried beside her husband at New Abbey, which was christened Sweetheart Abbey, the name which it retains to this day. The depredations suffered by the abbey in subsequent periods have caused both graves to be lost. Successors: Dervorgilla and John de Balliol had issue. Sir Hugh de Balliol, who died without issue before the 10th of April 1271. Alan de Balliol, who died without issue. Sir Alexander de Balliol, who died without issue before the 13th of November 1278. King John of Scotland, successful competitor for the crown in 1292. Cecily de Balliol, who married John de Burgh, K.N.T. of Woking, Hertfordshire. Ada de Balliol, who married in 1266 William de Lindsay of Lamberton. Margaret Eleanor de Balliol, who married John II Cummin, Lord of Badenoch. Maud, who married Sir Brian Fitzalan, Lord Fitzalan of Bedell, K.N.T., who succeeded the Earl of Surrey as guardian and keeper of Scotland for Edward I of England. Owing to the deaths of her elder three sons, all of whom were childless, Dervorgilla's fourth and youngest surviving son John of Scotland asserted a claim to the crown in 1290 when Queen Margaret died. He won in arbitration against the rival Robert Bruce, 5th Lord of Annandale in 1292, and subsequently was King of Scotland for 4 years. Aunt and niece. She should not be confused with her father's sister, Dervorgilla of Galloway, heiress of Wissendine, who married Nicholas II Astuteville. Her daughter Joan d'Astuteville married 1 Stly Sir Hugh Wake, Lord of Bourne, and 2 Ndly Hugh Bigod. Her other daughter Margaret married William de Mastac but died young. Ancestry.